So if you think your home is worth more, so does every seller. I'm here with my husband, David, and we're gonna unpack the reality of what it takes to sell your home and what buyers are thinking instead, because we have to think of this in the mindset of a buyer. Who's gonna buy your home? Because we're seeing a lot of houses sit on the market and sellers are not having the right expectation, but we wanna give that to you today so that you can be educated for when the time comes to sell your house, you know what to expect. We deal with a lot of sellers that absolutely need to get every dollar from their home, and it's understandable. Nobody wants to leave money on the table, but the reality is that we have to look at the data and what the market is doing. And I know you've done all these upgrades to the house and you hold all these memories, and to homeowners and sellers, they think that their house is valuable and it's understandable and they want the top dollar. But we deal with this every day, so we have to educate homeowners as to what the market is doing. And that's why it's so important for them to hire realtors that can educate them and that they trust, because we don't want to tell you, oh, we got to price it lower than what you think, just because, you know, it's the reality of what we're facing, and we're dealing with every seller. Every seller wants to price at the top, and then we're seeing that they're just staying on the market and not selling. And what they're doing is making their listing stale, making the buyers think that something is wrong with the house. So what are your thoughts on that?
So with so many houses on the market, buyers do have the upper hand, right? There's so many, right now with it being a buyer's market here in Central Florida, buyers have options. They can see your house and, you know, probably wait a couple more months until the price goes down because there's so many options, right? Another thing that I'm seeing is that we have so much technology on our hands that they're seeing the Zestimate. They're seeing what AI is giving them and feeding them and what AI thinks that the house is worth. You know, with so much technology in their hands, you know, they have options.
The last thing that you want to do is price the home at the highest level, because you lose all your negotiation power. You're giving away your negotiation power. When you price it at the market or just below, you create that demand that puts you in the driver's seat so that you can control the terms and the negotiation a little bit more. A lot of times buyers want, and we allow that because it's your investment. We don't ever want to force anyone to list it at our price, the price that we think, but we will give you the recommendation. And ultimately it's the seller's choice. 9 times out of 10, they choose to list at the top price, and then we end up trying to chase the market.
Yeah, and chasing the market, I mean, that doesn't get us anywhere, right? Prices starts going lower. Buyers have more upper hand now. They're seeing that the listing has been sitting there for quite some time.
Yeah, we just had that one buyer come twice to see the house, and he's like, I've been waiting for you guys to drop the price. All the houses are decreasing in price except this one. And you know, I understand the seller's goals and their need to get the most out of it. And a lot of times we tell sellers, listen, we're doing you a disservice by staying this long on the market without price reducing. And the reason why a lot of people say, oh, all this agent wants to do is price reduce. So I want people to understand why. Okay, there's 3 things that can sell your home:
location, price, and conditions. The location, we can't change the location. Your house is where it's at, and that's where it's staying. The conditions, we can update the conditions, but knowing that we have to update, we have to spend some money.
Right, and it has to be strategic.
Right.
Because just because you change all the doorknobs to the house, that may not increase value. So it's important that you get someone to look at your house before you start making any updates, because there's some updates that the buyers don't see the value in it.
When it comes to conditions, there's 5 things that as a buyer you should be very concerned on. Number 1 is your roof. That's a big ticket item. You want to make sure the roof is updated, or at least within the time range, the time that the life of
a lot of buyers, they have to get home insurance. So sometimes if the roof is towards the end of its life, their home insurance goes up, and we know that we're in a market where it's not affordable to buy a home. So those are things that we try to minimize as far as negotiation, because that's the one thing that buyers are coming in to negotiate.
The second thing would be the water heater. You want to make sure your water heater is a big ticket item. You know, a water heater can cost you from anywhere from $800 to $2,000. Electrical, you want to make sure your house is updated with electrical panels. Everything is updated. You want to make sure your pipes are updated. You want to make sure the plumbing is all good, because that's another big ticket item. And the last big ticket item that we always make sure is the AC. You want to make sure the AC is up to date, because these are conditions that when you move in, you want these to be good and the house to be livable.
Right. No buyer wants to move in and then the AC breaks down. They're already spending a ton of money buying the house. They don't want those things to be broken or end up breaking 1 month after they move in. Right. So they're looking at those things.
Right. These are big ticket items.
Right. They also can look at other things that make the home unsafe, or unlivable. So those are the main points that we kind of talk our sellers through, but also condition. We talk about staging and how your house is positioned for the market. Right. Because one of the things that you can do to make your home look nicer is paint.
Like one of our clients that was selling her home to move, I remember the house outside was like a yellowish color.
Yeah, it was a bright yellow.
And
I didn't think it was anything bad. I was like, let's try it.
We had our client, one of the clients comes to the front of the house and said, "David, this is not the house." And when he went inside the house, after overseeing the colors of the exterior, he went inside and he was like, "Wow, this house is beautiful." Mm-hmm. And then we advised the client to paint the house, and we got an offer within
about 9 days.
9 days after she painted the exterior of the house.
Right, but we also did some work inside. We removed furniture, we decluttered, because less is more when you're putting your house on the market. You don't want them to see your furniture or your pictures. So we also, we'll come in and give you recommendations on how to set up your home for showings and things like that. So now let's talk about pricing, because a lot of homeowners struggle with this a little bit, and I get it. I'm a homeowner too, and I want the most for my property, and I want to get every cent that I can out of there. Because it's my investment, it's a big asset, right? But here's the thing, when homeowners price at the very top because they want to have room to negotiate, they're essentially shooting themselves in the foot, because buyers know what's happening in the market. They see the price reductions. They know exactly what value is, and if we cannot show the value with the condition of the home, then the price is the other thing that we have to move.
Right. And I always tell my sellers, we're not just selling the home to the buyer. We're selling the home to the agent who's also looking at
and knows the market.
And now one of our biggest hurdle, which is AI. AI is also telling the buyer, hey, this is what I think you should offer for this house.
Even though AI should be taken still with a grain of salt, because it is a computer. Same thing with the Zestimate. It is a computerized output, but it gives the buyer an idea of where ballpark they can start.
And so with AI, I want to tell clients, you have to use it as a tool. AI is somewhere at this time, it's something that can give us ideas and give us a place where to start. For example, if a realtor like me is going to use AI, it's going to come up, more accurate because I know what I'm asking. But someone who's out there who doesn't do this all day and starts asking AI questions, AI is just going to give them an overall general.
Right. Or they might not know what questions to ask to get the right output.
The same thing with a mechanic. If a mechanic starts using AI to get the answers, the AI is probably gonna feed it better answers because the mechanic knows
What
is trained and what
ask.
questions to ask. Where to someone like me,
or
I'm gonna ask them, hey, AI, I need to fix my car. You know, I'm gonna ask questions, general basic questions, but just to get me somewhere, to get me started. But you can see the difference. But overall, AI is good help.
But you still need a professional.
You still need a professional. Now, pricing, that's a very big topic, right? Ultimately, we don't dictate the price. The market dictates the price.
Yeah, ultimately, we kind of know based on what's on the market right now. So back in COVID, we were looking mostly at solds because that's what an appraiser is going to look at. In this market, we have to look at our competition, because if there's a house down the street that is similar to your house in square footage and condition, blah, 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 and they're priced at 500, then we can't be at 500 or 510. We have to be lower, because if it's a little bit better than yours, buyers are going to go that way. And you're only helping your neighbor down the street sell their home. So that's why we come up with a strategy based on your goals and your home condition and how we can get it prepared for the market to make sense, so that we're strategizing the price so that you're in the driver's seat and you're not just taking an offer because there's no other offer coming in.
Yeah, and I understand. If you're anything like us, we don't want to leave no money on the table, right?
Definitely.
Nobody likes to leave money on the table. But we also we have to listen to what the market is telling us. First week, second week, the market, we don't have no showings, no offers.
Yeah, that's an indication that we're not where we need to be.
Right.
Even if you have some showings, if there's no offers in a week or two, the longer you sit on the market, the worse it's going to be. The buyers and realtors are going to see, oh, this house has been on the market for 6 months. You can negotiate on this. We tell our buyers, if you want a good deal, let's look at houses that have been on the market over 60 days, because those sellers are like, oh my God, can I get an offer? Can I get an offer? And this is why we don't want you in that position. We want to price it strategically so that we can get an offer quickly, because the negotiation room is going to be a lot smaller than if you're on the market a lot longer. Now, finally, let's talk about emotional value versus financial reality.
Yeah, this is a big one. And it's a big one because, you know, we're homeowners as well. We go in there, we want to change up everything. We want to change up the tiles. We want to paint the exterior of the house.
And we put it in our taste,
right,
you know, but maybe the next person that's buying your house, that's not their taste.
Right.
But you spend all this money, and rightfully so, it's your house. Hopefully you get to enjoy whatever you upgraded or you spent. A lot of sellers tell us, oh, I just spent 20 grand on the roof. And that's great, but it's a maintenance item. It's an item that you have to do as a homeowner. It's not an item that's gonna add value to your home. Right.
You know, for example, you know, I have one of our clients that put a pool. They spend what, $100,000, I believe, on the pool.
And an appraiser only takes $20,000, $30,000.
The most $50,000 in consideration of the pool. So these are big ticket items that sometimes, as a seller, when you go sell your house, you might not get back. So it's always important to talk to a professional.
When you're doing upgrades, or unless you're doing it for your own enjoyment and you're not planning to sell. But we know a lot of times, sometimes a lot of our sellers lately, they buy a house and within 2 years they have to sell, and then they're invested all this money and they're not gonna get it back.
So final thought, guys, the market does not reward you on what you think your house is worth. It really just comes down to what a buyer is willing to pay for your house.